Thanks a lot for coming down as well, for supporting local live music. You see the news today, I didn't. Were you stuck inside all day? I wasn't. Ooh, the days go fast when you look to the past.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm alright. I'm alright.
Very good.
I'm a bit bored. A little bit bored. But I'm alright.
Try to stay active.
Just been watching lots of videos and been watching that Scream TV series on Netflix.
Oh, we started that a few years back. What season is on? It must be on a few seasons now.
They've done series 3 a couple of years ago, but apparently it was just something completely different. So I'm just watching the first 2.
Yeah, I think I might have tapped out at the end of season 1. I think Katie got into season 2. But
it's a bit better. It's second one, I must admit.
First one, I would just let her. I can probably go without it. How long have you been a musician?
I started playing guitar at, I'd say, 13. Started writing songs around then, but I'd probably only class myself as a proper musician in probably the last 10 years, when I sort of learned how to actually play the instruments that I'd been just kind of say busking on for a while.
How did you get your first gig? How did it come about, and where and when was it?
It's funny because technically I'd say I've got 2 first gigs. My first time playing in what would be considered a gig environment were at my old school, where I was playing guitar for a band. But I always class my first proper gig as my first band 9 Volt shot at Joseph's Well in Leeds. That were in 2004, so I'd have been 16 then. Ugh. And we actually sold it out the well, because the entire 6th form and I think families of all the 6th form mates and stuff came, so it was an absolute sellout. I remember us getting I think we got 150 quid for playing, which was unheard of from original band playing at Joseph's Well, and it was what the fuck? It was all downhill from there.
You've not topped that.
It was great. I've still got the video of the gig.
First time I filmed you was at Joseph Well, and that was in 2012.
And that was my last gig there, so it kind of came full circle.
I miss the Joseph Well. It was a good pub for that, good bar, great for music.
It was brilliant. it really is missed, is that place.
Well, thanks for coming to our first gig anyway. Thank you!
So your 9-volt shot, that was your first band? Like, how did you find?
I'd met the bass player whilst doing guitar lessons at my school, but he was from like the rival school, Rodillion. I went to Rhodes. And we just got chatting in, I think it was, well, we met when I was in like year 11. And then in the summer holidays before actually starting at sixth form, we got together and started writing stuff together. And then James knew a lad who played drums called Stu from the same music centre lessons. And my friend Tim as well, who got involved as the lead guitarist. And he would, Tim were like miles ahead of us. Well, so were James, miles ahead of me, especially like musically. So they were, I knew a few chords. I were writing songs, whereas them guys could actually really play at even such a young age. They were good quality players, And we just got together, and then me and James were really into, I'd say like really into like early Chili Peppers stuff at that point, like that punk funk kind of sound. I were also a massive Floyd and Beatles fan, still am. And Tim was into Floyd, but also his crossover. He liked a lot of like classic rock, Zeppelin, and all that kind of stuff. So the different influences kind of came together, and it were a lot of fun. Just wrote, didn't care what style the music was really. It just came out. I suppose it sounded like a young pub rock band, you know, just with all these different influences and like very immature lyrics and silly riffs and that, but it was great fun.
What can you think about when you're 16?
That's it. It was just, you know, developing all these feelings and emotions, you know.
As I say, your head's all over the place, isn't it?
But that's it. Well, it was just a lot of it. A lot of the songs were based around, like, you know, your first sexual experiences and getting teachers at school and getting bullied and this and that and blah blah blah. You know, it just different experiences you were going through at the time. You know, and it were, but also just with every song seemed to have a little bit of a element of humour to it.
Well, how long did you stay together as a band?
It's mad to think. I think we only. Well, I bet it were under 2 years. I left to do a couple of other things. I was drumming in a thrash metal band, and I kind of left the 9 volt shot thing to join a band called Eris. I feel the music that 9 volt shot were doing was probably better than Eris, but I thought it were better at the time. But the guys in the band I'm still in contact with today from Eris, and Luke Craven has played with me at loads of gigs and stuff. So he was bass player in Eris, and we've stayed good friends to this day, like, as well.
Yeah, because he was in Braveface at one point.
He was, yeah. He did played bass on the first 2 albums, and did quite a lot of live gigs with us. And he came back actually for one. Jamie joined, but he came back and he did the Space gig at the Broodinell.
From 9 volt shot and then Eris, then what did you do then?
There were a few bands. To be honest, I've been in a lot of bands like as hired gun kind of thing, you know, where I've just joined a band who needed a drummer or needed a bass player or something, because people knew I could play a couple of different instruments. Mainly did gigging with Eris for, I'd say, from about 2006 till about 2007. Then had a mini reunion in 2009. And we also had a reunion a couple of years back as well. I'm trying to think. Oh, there were Hot Contents, which were a comedy band. The couple of lads who I run my first studio with, they we set up like a parody cock rock band. We were like terrible, but we were a laugh, you know, and people seemed to enjoy just the fact that it were nuts and a bit nonsense. We used to go on stage all dressed as Hulk Hogan and sing about stupid things like "Have you ever been to Northern France?" and "Hotter than hot" and stuff. It was ridiculous, but a lot of fun.
Oh, it is different parts of his career.
Now and again, I think so. It was usually me and the drummer who did NWO Hollywood organ, and the other two who did Real American organ.
I'm gonna say, if you're gonna do Hogan, you've got to do him his different parts of his career.
That's it.
I think Hollywood Hogan's my best Hogan. It's just awesome.
Early Hollywood Hogan, I think.
Yeah, start of NWO is awesome.
Yeah.
I'd say probably 97, 98's the best look for Hogan in the Hollywood gear.
Yeah.
In wrestling, I love it. Guilty pleasure.
Yeah, it is. I'm watching AEW, and AEW has now got me into Impact. They did a crossover thing, and I've started watching Impact now, and I'm like, they're both. It's just refreshing. It's good wrestling. I like it.
Yeah, it's great. Just trying to think of other things I was doing at that point. Did a lot of recording projects with my mate Simon, who I'm now with Arc of Triumph.
Oh yeah. Oh, so you've known him for a long time then?
Oh yeah, I mean, my first ever stuff I ever recorded, he recorded for me.
All right.
So like my really early songs that I wrote, and I did a couple of EPs, and he recorded the 9 Volt Shot, both EPs now made into an album on Spotify.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did a lot of recording stuff. We started off by re-recording the Dark Side of the Moon album by Floyd. we didn't finish it, but that sort of like started a long-lasting relationship between me, Simon, and a lad called Luke Smith, who does all the my artwork on my albums. But we did a lot of recording, and that became a band called Return to Algestrel, which I was in briefly. I've appeared on most of the recordings, but when they played live, it were Luke and Simon and some other lads. Dom from a lad called Dom who plays bass. Was in a band called Shit the Bed.
Nice name.
And a lad called Morgan who is in a band called Buen Chico, and they were quite well known around Leeds. And a drummer called Kyle. I don't know if he's playing still or out. I haven't spoke to him for a while.
It's a jazz song that we wrote. A few jazz chords in there. Do we like a jazz chord? A jazz chord to say I love you. A jazz chord. You got it, yeah, you got it. That's fine, we're alright there then. Let's hold some hands to the door there, didn't we? Anyway. This is called New Black Jacket. I got a new black jacket, wear it around my arms and my back. I don't know who last had it, but they wore it in nice, so it fits me well. There's a woman's tale of the top of the sea, and the heart was a silver dollar. In the other was a tissue tight in the sleeves. I got a new black jacket. Got a new black jacket. Got a new black jacket. New black jacket. Hung it up to dry after the day in the rain. Colors all around it, now it just looks great. Say it didn't take a turn, said it would be fun to know. Saddle on my baby, my jacket so. While it's shading in the rain, the jacket turned from black to gray. Can you feel my pain? Can you feel my pain? Yeah. I got a new black jacket. Got a new black jacket. Got a new black jacket. New black jacket. I got a new black jacket. Got a new black jacket. Got a new black jacket. Thank you.
How do you define your sound? Like your sound now?
It's a weird one really, because I think I always class it as pop music in the sense that most of my material has a verse chorus, middle eight, chorus end structure, a pop song structure. But there's that much I listen to that I sometimes call it alternative, but it's not really alternative because all of the songs are very much of a sound, but every track seems to come out differently. There's definitely, like, in my earlier stuff, a lot of pop, classic rock, prog rock. Whereas the more recent stuff, there's been I'd say probably a folk and a country element to it, like creeping in, and a bit of blues, a bit more rootsy stuff.
There's a lot of storytelling in your newer stuff.
Yeah, the early stuff, a lot of the lyrics were like fictional stories or stories meant to sound like other things, a lot of metaphors, this and that, didn't always make sense. Or, yeah, a lot more sort of like cryptic, I guess. I think in the last couple of albums it's become a bit more self-indulgent.
What are you drinking? Is that an Elvis juice?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So I recognised it.
It's nice and refreshing.
I've got a drink called the Slumber Pressure Drop.
Oh, nice.
Send you to sleep, that.
Yeah, I'm going to say it might do. It's 10%. You might have to wake me up later on.
Lee, you still there, mate?
Yeah. So when did you first sort of take charge of your own band, or think, like, I'll create a band?
You know, I don't think I've ever, until probably the Rory Holl band, which, you know, is basically a band playing all my original stuff. I never intended to be the main guy or a front man at all. I think I always kind of got asked to front bands. You know, it always seemed to be that they wanted me to do the singing or the main songwriting or whatever. I've done a lot of like sessioning for bands, I guess, where it's been nice to just take a bit of a back seat, but like actual gigging bands that I've been involved with my mates, it's usually ended up me fronting the band. I'd love to drum in a band again.
So I remember in a conversation where you'd love drumming.
Yeah.
Could I say? So anyone who wants a drummer, Rory's available. So how important is gigging to you?
Very important. It's pretty much the thing that gives me the most pleasure in my life, really. It is kind of me. I suppose it's my raison d'etre. I play, therefore I am. I couldn't. You know, sometimes I prefer doing certain types of gigs. And I love doing the studio work, but I think there's no better feeling playing live and people enjoying what you do, you know, and what you're playing. And them gigs, they're great. It makes everything else worthwhile.
It is. I was going to say, I really miss going to gigs at the moment. Just to be back in a pub, listening to, like, probably yourself or anyone else. Just missing the gigs at the moment. Because the gigging for you is your bread and butter in it as well.
Yeah. The covers gigs especially. Not so much the original stuff, but that is for the love. But the covers gigs is kind of was my main source of income. So they've been a bit few and far between recently.
I was say, how have you been holding up during these lockdowns?
Up and down. Some days I don't even want to get out of bed, and I don't want to speak to anyone. And then other days I'm right as rain. Great, looking forward to what's next. You know, so it can really be. It can go one way or the other. There's never a medium. It's either I wish I hadn't woke up, or right, I'm going to do something with today, with what I've got. You know.
During the first lockdown, you recorded an album, so you kept yourself going there, didn't you? And I must say that album is great. It's probably my favourite album of yours. It's just a really good, well pieced together album. Very deep, though. I think it's the deepest you've ever gone.
Yeah, it's pretty dark in parts. It's funny, I've not listened to it for ages. and I put it on the other day, and yeah, well, that's I didn't do bad there. It's one of my favourites. I still have a soft spot for the first album, and I can listen, and not a lot of people like listening back to their own stuff. I don't mind so much. I feel quite pleased with what I've done. But for me, I really like Planets and Jackets. I'd probably say that's my personal favourite. But I think sometimes the most recent one, that It's a Living, it triggers stuff that's a bit close,
It's close to home.
It's like listening, yeah. So it's like, oh dear.
Because you've always, like you said, you've always mentioned stuff through metaphors.
It's all up to interpretation.
And as that album, I just felt like you just kind of said what it was.
Yeah, and I think that's what hit a lot of nerve with people. I think it's definitely been my best selling and most sort of talked about album that I've done. And I think that's a lot because the lyrics are relatable. I were never a massive fan of lyrics. I very rarely used to listen to lyrics in songs. I were always about the vocal melody and how it sounded above the music. But I was definitely more into the music and the track side of things over the vocals. But in the last few years, definitely more into my vocal stuff. I were into elaborate production stuff as young, all this prog stuff where they're singing about wizards and all this kind of thing, where I'm just listening to the music really, to like listening a lot more to stuff like Dylan and Neil Young and things like that, where the music's not particularly that complicated, probably based around 3, 4, 5 chords, but the great melodies and the lyrics are, they actually get to you and mean something. So I think that's why I were a little bit more on the last couple of albums prepared to just let it out a little bit more, and it seems to have struck a chord with people.
Yeah, I would say because from Planet and Jackets, I love New Black Jacket, and then my favourite song of yours of all time is Just Get Pissed Instead, because that's pretty much my life. I'm just like, yeah, I could have done something, but I just get pissed.
People love it. It's a sing along song. I can play that I can play it in any venue as well. I can, even like the strictest of covers venues, I can whip that one out and people are singing along to it. It's a very catchy tune.
First hook and yeah, people are kind of, I can sing along to that already.
I think it's become my Smoke on the Water.
Yeah, no, it's a fucking, to me that should be your anthem. It's definitely my anthem. Played it at my funeral. I think you've already answered this, but what do you get from gigging?
Loads and loads of cash. No, not really. Probably a sense of purpose, sense of what I'm doing is worth it. When people are coming along and watching you and enjoying it and stuff like that, it's great. It's great to get. I get everything out of gigging really. It's there's not much else to say about it really.
It's your purpose.
I'll tell you what I've got most out of gigging is friends, and people who I chat to now. I've met so many. I've met pretty much all of my mates, most of them anyway, through gigs. I met you and Dom through work.
But we didn't really sort of start talking until we met outside of work through your gigs.
Yeah.
Invited me along when you bumped into me in, I think, Dry Dock back in the day.
That'll have been it.
Yeah, and then yeah, You're the reason I started my filming gigs. If it hadn't been for you, I'd have never filmed a gig. I don't think, unless you kind of got me into it. My thing was just I've got stories I want to tell, and then I filmed that first gig of yours, and I was like, fucking follow him and make a documentary. And then just that initial thought, I was like, you could do this. So yeah, you put that thought into my mind. You're the reason all I'm doing for your music is you're the reason.
Great stuff. Well, that's it.
I don't think I've ever told you that, but yeah, you are the reason.
No, and it's great, isn't it? What we're talking 9 years later, is it? Something like that. It's nuts.
What is your most memorable or favourite gig that you've ever played?
Apart from the absolutely disgusting staff that dealt with us, the thingy gig were great.
I was just going to say, you're going to
Yeah, the staff treated us like absolute shite. But the tech guys, the lights and the sound engineer were great, proper professional. We set up, we didn't piss about, we got set up and that were really nice setting for, it felt like a big gig, I'm trying to think of any other examples.
On that, like I was speaking to somebody down in London who I asked permission if I could, because knowing for you guys, I'm like, I'm gonna probably have to, if I'm gonna use it in documentary, I'm gonna have to have some legal paperwork to say that I can film and use the footage within their venue. So I contacted somebody and talking to someone down in London. She was great. You don't have to pay a penny to us. Just give us credit, and then if you do make any money down the line, she was like, we'll talk down then. Just for using, obviously, because we've already got a name. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So she gave me the contact in, and when I got there that day, they were just not bothered. They didn't really care. I was like, but I spoke to Son, and she says, and they're like, right, well, you can do this, but you can't go there, and you can't go there. I'm like, well, I'm supposed to have like full access. I'm supposed to be able to follow them behind stage, and as I've already organised it, it's already been like pushed through. Yeah, well, you're just gonna have to stand there and do that. So I had to sneak upstairs to film the interview I did with you, and then wasn't allowed to. I wasn't even allowed to stay out at that gig. They booted me out.
I loved that Well gig, the first gig you recorded us at, because that I really enjoyed that one.
I didn't really know what we were doing at that point, though.
No.
I was just like, shit, I've got to film a gig. How do you do that?
That first gig as well is memorable, the 9-volt shot one. There's so many though. There's probably a lot more than that I've loved and that I just can't think of at the moment.
I would say, because I followed you. You've been down at Liverpool. You played at Cavern, haven't you, and stuff.
Yeah, that were great. Yeah.
Yeah, you've done quite a lot.
Yeah, that were ace. Loved it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. But you've done that a few times, haven't you? Haven't you done it on your own? And
yeah, I've got up with people who've been playing there, like the usual regular guys who they have on there. I've always bullied my way on stage, like, with them. And
I hear.
Yeah, I love that place. It's great fun, and it were great to play with my mates on stage there. It were ace.
Yes, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed capturing it. I'd never seen any music there. I'd only been Fruit Day when there were no music on, so I'd had a drink there when I visited Liverpool, and that were it. It was nice to go in and have that music on both at stages.
It was a good laugh, that, yeah. And it was great, yeah, it was great having Danny on stage with us as well. It was cool.
So let's talk about sort of the lockdowns. We're on lockdown number 3 now. how have you been doing in sort of each one, I guess?
The first one, looking back on it, wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't, everyone was shocked, and it's funny, and it's affected so many people in different ways. I was mortified at first, and I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. But then I found stuff to do, and I got that album done, and and did a load of, I don't know, a bit of, not to sound too but a bit of soul searching and kind of finding out what I actually wanted to do. I were a bit, I don't know, things started picking up a little bit before this lockdown, like gig wise, good support slots and a little bit of interest and things like that. But I were growing very disillusioned with a lot of different aspects of playing, and but I think a lot of them were just sort of like psychological, a lot in up in my head. So it gave me a real chance to sort of reevaluate things. So when they lifted, they relaxed the rules in, were it June or July? Were it July?
I think it was July when we first came out. First one.
I couldn't wait to get back out gigging, but it was really daunting experience. And it took me a few gigs to get back into my stride. I mean, you were at the first one back.
Yeah, you had two with that first day, didn't you?
Yeah, in Snydale Beer Garden. Was that the day I did there and the Black Bull?
Yeah.
Yeah,
in Rothwell. Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, because they were a bit, I don't know, it were a bit weird going back into that, wasn't it? Because even for me, because that was the first time I'd gone back into a pub, and they set the rules where you could only go a certain way around the bar, which I thought, what's it called in Snydale? What's the old...
the Crosskeys.
Crosskeys. And I thought they did a great job where they had a one-way system, and then we were sat out in back, so you had to come in through the door and go back out the back area. I thought they had that worked perfectly.
Yeah, they're a great bunch down there as well.
But then like gigging at Garden, and plus it was pissing it down.
First gig back in July, and it's pissing it down.
But yeah, they had everything sort of set up to and it was perfect. But it was a weird environment to go back into. But I'm glad I sort of captured some of your stuff for that. It was. But how did you from that first gig? Like, what did you think? Like, what did you think the sort of the future was at that point?
I think it was good at first, and I were optimistic. But then when it started, when I'd done a few more, I was sort of like noticing the conduct to a lot of the punters and the patrons, just like ignoring these one-way systems, not wearing the masks, hugging, kissing each other, doing all that stuff. And I thought, we're gonna be back to where we started, and that, lo and behold, that's what happened. And that were it just got sort of worse from there.
As I went to like more pubs, because I'm fucking alcoholic, so I have to drink. So I went to quite a few pubs, and you could see people sort of going, "I've had enough of this already," and it was kind of going back to how you would normally spend your time in a pub, but you can't.
I think that's why they've treat the pubs the way they do, because I think they know once someone's got a beer down them. I mean, I know a lot of people who like a good drink and were still following the rules and doing as they were told, even after a skimful, you know what I mean? That's the people who respect the pubs and keep them open. Then you got a lot who couldn't give a toss, really, and then moaning when the lockdown comes in again, and moaning how they can't go see live music and stuff.
When I came to see you at the Grove, and I thought that were organised perfectly. Davey had table service set up. He was the only one walking from table to table. If you had to get up, you've got to go to the toilet and do the one-way system, which was fine. And I thought that night worked perfectly. But then I've been to other gigs and other places where there's just even nothing set up, and people would just go do whatever they want. And there was some pubs just go in, just take your own sort of discretion, what you think is safe.
Well, I felt terrible for some of these landlords. Like, I could see them, and they're nearly on the verge of a fucking breakdown because they've got to police all these people who've had a skinful, and all they're asking them to do is follow rules, and we'll stay open, and we can keep on doing this. But they're just ignoring them, and this is why we're still in this situation. Well, you know, a year on.
But I went original, we're recording on a banjo. So there we all were, unable to leave, unable to step outside. The pause but a push on our lives. It's not a good feeling, not only locked in our rooms, but locked inside our heads. Only dreams are friends.
And now people are arguing the toss over getting the jab, you know, and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, but I usually keep on the fence about most things, but just get the jab. You know.
It's just, come on, it helps us all. If that's the thing that we all need to help us move forward, just, you know, get on board. Because it's just stupid shit where like people are just, there's going to be microchips inside your jab, and it's like, come on.
This comes from Karen, who checks in at every location on her smartphone and that. Yeah,
it's like, come on, like, but I don't know. The government haven't handled it well at all, but I don't think we've helped ourselves either.
No, I agree.
Out of the, because now we're on his third lockdown, which would you say is worst one?
I'd probably say this one, because they seem to get worse each time. The second one, it was like there's no end in sight, but then they said, "Oh, should be all sorted for Christmas," so then you're kind of holding out hope then. But then this one, even though they're saying, right, we're handing out this vaccine and doing all this sort of stuff, you just don't know. You've been lied to and led along this many times that it's hard to even get hopeful about it, you know, because you've just been, led along and lied to, yeah.
Thought of not knowing if our families are sick, or when we will see them again, going round the bend. When all this is over, we can all go to the Grove, have a pint. That's right. Thank you very much. That's the first time I've ever played that live.
think it might online gigs might be the new normal.
Yeah, I would say it has been a good thing with online gigs though. I've got to admit, like I said, with a few of them, like a few of these before, it's kept that gigging alive.
I think it's one instance where social media and technology has really come up trumps in all this. Because imagine if this had have happened, you know, or whenever else happened before, like 30 years ago, let's say, maybe even 20 years ago, you know, when the internet were kind of in its infancy, you wouldn't have been able to, I mean, the amount of people as well online and doing online gigs and stuff like that, it's I could notice even now my internet slowing down, and it's not the best connection, as you can tell. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it has been like for me, social media has kind of held its purpose for keeping people connected during these times, and especially like the fact that you can do live videos.
There's a lot of negativity on social media. But yet every time I've done an online gig, it's been nothing but positivity and people with good things to say and nice. And it's great to see example of doing like an online gig. I love reading through the comments, and someone will know another person who's in the stream who they haven't spoke to for ages or didn't know one on Facebook. Hey, how you doing? And it's great. It's just, that reminds me of what it's like at a normal gig when people who haven't seen each other for a while or friends can get to, and they've been having like, I've read conversations in the, you know, the comment section. It's great. I love that. I think that's brilliant. You know, just that's good. We need more of that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So when was your last gig that you did in sort of a pub?
In public.
Yeah, in public.
My last gig was in December, early December. I travelled over to a tier 2 near Selby, and I played at a brewery near Selby. And it was quiet, not a lot of people there. I'd probably say about 15 to 20 in a big, big barn unit thing. But they were doing they were great, spacing out, everything was spaced, served with a meal, all that kind of stuff. They'd done it all above board, like, it was great. And sold a couple of CDs and got to see a couple of people, so it was nice. And then it was just that one, since between the second and the third, I just did that one, and then that was it.
How was it getting a gig after the first lockdown? Like, was it easy? Was it difficult?
After the first lockdown, I was getting asked to play everywhere pretty much. It was nuts. It was nuts. I played a lot between the first and the second. That July to September, October, was it?
Yeah, it was like a month and a half, 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah, but it was 3 months, wasn't it? It was brilliant. I would out at least once a weekend, maybe more. Once or twice a week, I were out.
I was there, like, what your thoughts on when your next gig will be?
I've no idea. I wouldn't like to say now. Because if I put a date on it and it's not happened by then, it'll do my head in and I'll get disappointed.
You're going to do any more live streams? Not at midnight?
Not at midnight, no. I'm going to do a tea time thing, I think. It was on a whim with that, spur of the moment.
I got to work on Monday, and I just started working, and I'm like, right, I'll check social media, and then it was like, Rory Holl were live. I'm like, what the fuck? And it said 6 hours ago. I'm like, that was 1 a.m.
Yeah, I think I finished at about 2:30. I'd gone on at midnight. I I just felt like it. I'd had a few drinks, so I felt I'd done some recording for the new Arc of Triumph album, so I just felt up for it.
How's that album going?
Nearly done. Yeah, not far off. We've done most of vocals remotely, so I've just been recording my parts, bouncing them down as a WAV file, email him, and he's got the main mix, the main project. So yeah, done lead vocals on a couple of tracks, done harmonies. It's weird harmonising vocals from different houses, but it's sounding great. I'm really happy with how it's come out. The instruments sound great, the songwriting. As always, Simon is a fantastic songwriter, and it's always a pleasure to play on out he's written, so yeah, really looking forward to getting that out. I think it's one of the best things either of us have done, to be honest. Like, I really, really do like the album.
So that's his second album you've done together, like as Arc of Triumph.
Yeah, and it's been quite cool because Simon writes all the lyrics and most of the music. My role is mainly as a performer and an ideas man, sort of a producer role, I guess. Coming up with ideas structurally and melodically, rhythmically, that adds to the song, and it's been in the works for a few years now, but the amount and we've done in the circumstances we've had in the last year is nuts. Yeah, how much we've done, and it's quite a richly layered album. There's a lot going on in it, lots of overdubs, lots of time being spent on it. So really looking forward to that getting finished.
So I'll be looking forward to that because I've got your first album that you did together. How did you? So obviously, like you say, like Simon recorded your first 9-volt shot stuff. Obviously, always kept in touch, and what did he have his music sort of set up, and always had you in mind, or? Yeah,
well, I mean, we've played together in bands. We've done a lot of studio work, and we're very, very good friends. He's one of my closest mates. So I really haven't laughed as much making this recording. Like, most of it is spent pissing about, doing, like, quoting Blackadder and, and just acting like idiots, like, between takes, because the music's quite serious, it's all, the whole concept of this album is very dark. It's about mental illness. It's about the man's inhumanity to man, but like between takes of recording a song about a fella who got hung, drawn and quartered because of political beliefs, we're doing impressions from Fools and Horses and things like that, and having a giggle, and like we've really laughed a lot, Jordan. It's kept me together really as making the album with him.
Switch on your eyes, perfect time to synthesize your feelings. Water pours upon your head, always forget all the dread increasing. Perfect time to pop the pill, you're feeling just like you to lose the screw. The pain, it sticks like glue, excruciating. Thoughts traverse around your mind. Please do not forget to try and have a good day. Hope you have a good day. When avenues have long expired, all you ever feel is tired. Have a good day. You have a good day.
Right, so let's get serious for a second. So the government suggested that everybody sort of in arts should retrain to the skill set to something else. What were your reactions to that? How did that make you feel?
I mean, things get taken out of context, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't like to get political in stuff like this. I don't like to talk too much about my political leaning and things like that. I think it were ill-worded and ignorant towards a lot of people who have spent a lot of time training in their field, field of work and their skills, for them to just go and retrain in something else. Somehow it seemed to come across as like, to move on and try and get some other work and blah de blah and stuff like that. But it's just sort of a typical kind of mentality of that party to not really respect the arts and what goes into it. I mean, it's funny that they actually made a poster, didn't they, with the ballerina on it: reskill, rethink, retrain, which took a photographer, a makeup artist, a photo editor, a graphic designer to make that poster for him, which, it just had a slight irony to it,
Yeah.
In regards to what I wasn't going to start retraining in anything or rethinking, because I've done plenty of that in my, short 33 years on this planet. So it's, but again, I'm not adverse to getting a bit of part-time work or another job to keep the money coming in.
Even though we're not sure when this lockdown, when would you like to think your next gig would be?
Well, I know I got a booking yesterday for the 11th of December, so I'm hoping that'll happen. But I have stuff in the diary that's just subject to get cancelled. Got a couple of theatre gigs with the ELO Beatles Beyond stage thing, which is, it's the like Jeff Lynne Paul McCartney story. It's called. It's a theatre band that play mainly Macca, Wings and Beatles stuff and ELO.
Okay, so what are you doing that?
They've just hired me to do some bass, some rhythm guitar, and some backing vocals. Because there's a Paul McCartney and a Jeff Lynne look-alike, sound-alike duo with a backing band. So they've just asked me to do a couple of gigs with them. And that's getting around that. That's like Scotland, London, all over.
Hopefully that'll go forward.
Yeah, and I've got quite a few gigs that I'm going to see penciled in. I was hoping to get to a lot of the space gigs, and there's Faith No More and stuff.
Final thing, what are you going to leave us with?
I'm going to leave you with a pre-recorded performance. I'm going to do... well, it depends how many... I was thinking of maybe doing 2 or 3 numbers, if that's all right with you.
You, mate, if you want to do 2 or 3, we'll have a bit of a gig at the end of this.
Cool. Well, I'll do 2 from the back catalogue, and I'll do an Arc of Triumph song as well from the first album. So yeah, we'll do that.
Sounds great.
We picked you up, well, I fell further apart. Exchange curses, satanic verses, I kept locked away. Clocked out and locked out, almost got locked out, I should run away. So again and again, we'll go through the script till we're sore at the lips up. Again and again, we forget. The places we've been, the memories we made, and the plans that we laid up, leading to nowhere where we left. I know that others squirm when they hear your name, and I've heard that others cry when they hear mine the same. As long as it lasted, I've always been plastered and out of my tree. Everyone's hinting, but never convincing that this shouldn't be. So again and again, we'll go through the script till we're sore at the lips up. Again and again, we forget. The places we've been, the memories we've made, and the plans that we laid up, leading to nowhere where we left. So again and again, we'll go through the script till we're sore at the lips up. Again and again, we forget. The places we've been, the memories we've made, and the plans that we laid up, leading to nowhere where we left. Leading to nowhere where we left. Where we left. This is the house that we built. This is the house that we were crushed beneath, and this is the place we were buried to rest. This is the place that we never left. These are the homes that we made. This is the room where the king was laid, but when we expired, we were buried outside without a song, without a name. When I look back, I can never remember how it all looked when it wasn't assembled. When I look back, I remember falling, buried in the mass graves outside the walls. But this house should be your house, but it stands against us. This is the house they made in chains and rags, and this is the place that defines our race. This is the place that defines our race. When I look back, I can never remember how it all looked when it wasn't assembled. When I look back, I remember falling, buried in the mass grave outside the walls. I looked for my name, but I never could find it. The only ones I found were the people inside. But this house should be your house, but it stands against us all. It towers above me in shadow forever. Do you remember all the builders? Do you remember how we sang? Do you remember how we suffered? Heavy chains around our hands. I thought I'd have a quiet day, but boy was I wrong. Was gonna sit at home and write you a song. When the sun went down and the whiskey ran around my head, I had the best intentions, but I just got pissed instead. I tried to soak up the culture of Venice and Bruges, but I just got distracted by the Vino Rouge. I bought an old guitar, played the strings, and my fingers bled. Had the best intentions, but I just got pissed instead. I could have been a doctor, I could have worked for God, could have been the mayor of London or the king of the mods, but I settled for a bottle of gin in my bed. I had the best intentions, but I just got pissed instead. Well, every day I lie around and I procrastinate, masticate. I wish I could do something I don't hate. It's too late. Was gonna be a husband, was gonna be a pa, but the thought of her commitment made me run for the bar. She knew she could not believe a single word I said. I had the best intentions, but I just got pissed instead. Was offered all the chances, given all the breaks, but I wake up every morning with with the fear and the shakes. Now I'm lying on my bedroom floor, feel like death. Had the best intentions, but I just got pissed instead. I never paid attention, I just got pissed instead. Killed my reputation, yes I just got pissed instead.